Getting started with that, right? Welcome back to Cafecito Chats. Is how do you handle stress? That's part of it, right? Stress or adversity, and that's really one of the big topics. We can talk about school, work, life, partnerships, money, finances. How do you deal with stress and or adversity in this particular topic for today at Cafecito Chat? So we were talking about just regular relationships, human relationships, marriages per se, right? And that's one of the big things that normally puts a stressor on every person, every individual on both sides. It's not just the male or the female counterpart or whatever relationship you might have, but it does put a stress on those individuals within that relationship, and or be it financial. You might be at a job where you're not earning enough, and as we know, the cost of living in California is very, very high. So if you didn't get an education and you're earning minimum wage, to be able to pay a rent, it's very, very difficult, and that puts a stress on you as an individual. It puts a stress on your partner or the individuals that depend on you. If they're working, they're also on a stress and on edge because they're also coming home trying to figure things out, and you got to be able to deal with some of those situations. So at this point, let's go ahead and tackle the conversation. Lourdes, how do you deal with stress? What are the stressors? How do you detect those signs? And what should you actually do if you want to ask for help? And when do you know you need to ask for help?
That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try my best. Let's see. How do I deal with stress? I am a planner, so I plan most things on what I'm going to focus. I have a deadline. I have certain leeway on that. It's not like a pressured or my deadline is usually a week before things get done, so I still have a bit of time to tweak a few things before I actually have to turn something in. I do yoga and like intensity classes, I guess you can say, for mental health. I also do hiking. I try to keep a balance of both. And I also like throw in like friends, hang out, family time, all this other stuff in there, as well as making sure that I do my routine and what makes me happy. I think because of crash and burn a few times back in college, I noticed the patterns. Like when I'm stressed, I tend to not take care of my mental health. And I notice it early enough that I'm able to prevent it and go back into my routine. So I haven't really found myself in that position in like maybe 5 years or so, which is really good. But it's definitely always a work in progress.
What are some of the stressors that really get to you, or things that really start bogging you down? If you want to share some of those.
When I haven't progressed as much as I want to, and then it starts like interrupting my sleep, and then it's like a kind of snowball effect into everything because if I don't sleep well, then I don't want to work out. And if I don't want to work out, I'm not focused in my job and all this other stuff. So I tried not to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Lourdes. Thank you for sharing that insight. And then let's shift over to Hector. Hector Felix. Thank you for joining us, sir. You're a manager at the corporation, and you probably have to deal with a lot of people, a lot of employees. So that probably brings a little bit of a stress on to you. How do you deal with that? And also on a personal level, I believe you were going to get married. You're married already, and how is that situation at home? If you want to share a little bit of that.
Yeah. Hey, Lazaro. Good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
So first, I like a lot of what Lourdes said, that work-life balance is important. Burnout is real. So take the time for yourself, to do the things you like, get out, travel, road trip. I don't know. But things at home, it's important to have so not only a wife or partner, right, but family all around you. For students, for example, it's important to have people around you to support you, right? Just because you're going to school is not all on you. You still have to have people you can talk to, people you can bounce things off of. Not every day is going to be perfect. Things are going to come up, right? Life happens and stress happens. But one of the biggest ways I deal with stress, yeah, is advice I got a long time ago. And you guys have all probably heard it, but uh, focus on the things you can control and not the things you can't. So I think there's a lot of stuff that are that's in my control where I can act on it and relieve stress, be it work or life or family. But like a lot of the things you don't have control over, I try not to let those get to me because that's added stress. And when I'm stressed out, I don't function as well. I don't process things as well. I find myself kind of mentally blocked, and I think that just impacts my ability to do things I do need to do.
What are some signs that you when we're in the situation and we're stressing out, we always say, "Oh, it's okay. I'll figure it out. I'll keep plugging along, right?" And then all of a sudden, you add a little more, and you add a little more, and all of a sudden, you're in this situation where you don't know how to really ask for help. So, how would you suggest or recommend people identify that they are stressing out and that they need to reach out for help, be it family members, be it peers, be it some professional support system.
I think a big indicator, that you're under stress or overworked, you're getting burned out, is you start to neglect other things, like Lourdes said, your exercise or your sleep. Once that becomes a pattern, I think it's not sustainable, and that is probably by definition stress. Um, and how I seek out help is on my teams, for example, I have an open line, open door policy. Anyone wants to come talk about anything, it doesn't have to be work, wants to just talk about what they're going through and how I can help. So I want to be a resource to those people. And the same way I'm a resource to people I manage, I look to my leadership and my managers and my mentors whenever I need to talk or whenever I need to just, in Spanish, desahogarme. Like I need to just let it out. I need to talk to someone. So it's just family, mentors, peers. It's important to have people around you and not be siloed. That's why networking, I think, is really important to build those relationships with people that you feel comfortable with talking to.
So thank you, Hector. Thank you for sharing that insight. Let's go to a student here, Daniel Aguilar. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if you can open up your mic. And as you've heard, we're talking about stress, how to deal with stress, and adversity. So if you're able to open up your mic as a student, what are some things that you're going through, and is this something that you have experienced or have seen other students at the college level experience stress and or adversity? Daniel?
Yeah. Thank you. I would say from like a perspective from like one like a student. Sometimes like I guess like the common cause of stress is that you may be taking a lot of classes, and all those classes are going to give you like a bunch of work. Like I know especially like on during like finals week, like I know like every student's going to get like so many tests they have to study for, and they might get stressed because of that. So. Kind of from like my personal experience, how I deal with that, because it sometimes can be stressful, is that just kind of like um not really think small, but like start from like square one and kind of like don't really think too much of the future. So and like kind of like make this plan of like how you're gonna like prepare for all this and kind of just give yourself some time because like it might be a little harder to handle the stress once like it gets a little closer to like to when those events are going to happen. And yeah, also kind of like um what Hector was saying, like talking to people and like having others like communicating with others is very helpful as well in my opinion. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Thank
I got something to add, Lázaro, just
you.
to
Yep.
what Daniel said. I think that's really good. It's taking your big problems and breaking them down into kind of bite-sized pieces and tackling them one at a time. And taking it a step further, writing them down kind of gets them out of your head and on paper. Uh, I do that a lot, and I find like I can breathe better after it, or take a breath, and I am more relaxed.
Yeah, yeah, that's, breaking a large task into smaller pieces is always beneficial. It always helps, and you can definitely see it. And it's like that saying, it's funny, but it's real. How do you eat an elephant? piece by piece. You can't open your mouth and just, suck it in. But if you slowly work at it, eventually you'll start getting in and getting more progress into the whole situation. So that's how I believe Daniel is saying that he tackles his situation to avoid stress or burning out too much, right? And obviously, when you see that you have a lot to do, is wow, okay, how do I really tackle this? And can I delegate some of this to somebody else? If it's chores at home, can you break out a deal with your significant other, your parents, your brothers, sisters, whoever it is, and say, hey, for this particular time frame, can you help me out because I'm going through this, and explain and communicate to them. So once again, we go to this compromise situation where you actually have to dialogue and communicate what you're going through in that effort, right? So I hope that helps a little. Edgar, another student here. Thoughts on stress and or adversity that you're going through that you have seen other students go through. What are your thoughts on this, Edgar?
Good afternoon. Thank you to everybody. Um, so yeah, since I'm still studying here at UCSD, I'm definitely still learning firsthand and for the first time a lot of these lessons. But I can agree with what everybody said so far. And one thing I was thinking of is my mom always called me a perfectionist, and like I do consider myself such and ambitious in many senses. But the problem arises when things don't go according to plan, and I had a tendency to just like freak out and let it snowball onto myself. And I mean, eventually, pretty much every time, it's been all right. It's been okay. And even if something goes wrong, new opportunities have been open for me when I wouldn't expect them, from having to change courses. And so, like, one of the things I realized is just to not freak out when things don't go according to plan, because they won't always. And my mom even said, worst case scenario, we just go back to Mexico to where all our family is. You can just work there, start fresh. So there really is no, like, there's not a worst case scenario at least to this extent. And then Mina recommended me the the book 4,000 Weeks, and I started reading it. I got a couple chapters in, and wow, it absolutely resonates with me. And what I was saying last time, about, and Lasser, you were saying, as you get more ambitious and more, and you start knocking things out of your list, you're inevitably gonna add more. And at what point do you decide, oh man, I'm stretching myself out too thin? And so yeah, this book has been a great eye opener. 4,000 Weeks, Mina, thank you very much. Uh, I'm definitely adopting that. And but yeah, so keeping the ambition, but knowing that it'll be okay regardless of what happens, and there's always new opportunities that open when things go wrong. So that's how we keep our head up high.
Awesome. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your perspective. And with that, we go to Mina. Thank you for helping and supporting students offline. And this is what Cafecito Chats is really about. Online we get together, we talk about a topic, and then afterwards we possibly tag up with other individuals that we heard from in the call, and we reach out to them, right? So with in this case, Mina, I believe Edgar probably reached out to you, and he says, hey, can you give me some recommendations? And you handed that out, and I'm pretty sure it's great to hear that Edgar is following through on some of those recommendations. So congratulations, Edgar. Thank you, Mina, for that. So with that being said,
Thank you, Mina.
you're a business owner, Mina, and you probably have a lot of stress on your hands right now, trying to juggle family time, business, customers, your back scene business prospects that are going on. So, how do you deal with stress at your level? What is going on, and what advice can you give us from your perspective, Mina?
You, Lazaro, that was well said. How did you know?
Well,
I mean, it was like like a ladder.
yeah, right.
Oh, good day to everyone. This whole process it can be a bit frustrating in the sense that not many have effectively conducted themselves away from stress because they live it. How do they know it's different any other way? So what I kind of do in one way, I kind of like, it takes time, get familiarized with your home, your presence, wherever it is that you call abode. And for me, if something's going on, I change gears to another subject, which I know is going to not be probably as stressful, but that I'm going to like because, oh, I'm going to be doing this next. So let me go to that one. Something becomes stressful with that. That's two down. And I have five. I say, you know what? I'm going to the kitchen. No, not to eat, but cook, bake, do something for that half hour. I know someone said 10 minutes, 5 minutes, depending if I said your home environment allows it, right? And if your stove is working and the oven is, do that. You'd be surprised how it'll drive a different kind of appetite to you. And for me, it'll make it like, okay, I made this now. What else do I have that could be frozen that I could defrost or start cooking? That hour, half hour, whatever it takes, works. It's a therapy. It's a mental therapy. For me, it's just something, it's like a homemaking type thing. And it works. Or go eat if you have to. It does help because what it's telling you is that your nutrition level too can be affecting your stress. Y si no te estás tomando tu agüita, and I'm talking clear water, and you're drinking it properly and eating, that stress is going to double. And people don't realize that. One way physically, emotionally, things start happening. And I don't know, out of other mentees that I have on here, including Ken. Hello, Ken. And thank you again, Edgar, for your mentioning it, and others that have also reached out to me and have for years. Stress, you can be familiar with loss of hair, loss of weight, and a couple of other things that are very facial obvious. So stress comes in different sizes and in different ways. So if it means to eat, try to look at something a little more healthier and away from doing it. I said cooking because that's part of the obligation I have between, going from family to just whatever else I have to do as my domesticated obligations at home. And not do I just sit there and do cooking. I put it in, get going, get into something else because I know it's going to take 20 minutes before it's ready. What else has to get done? The laundry. I'm shifting while I'm at home, the difference of the two. And then I get back and I said, okay, where was I left over? What skill did I miss? What did I need? And I get to it. But at least I took myself away and put myself into another part of the house, another part of culture that I like, which is, la cocina mexicana, or any others that come to my mind, you know, the frozen kitchen. Go into the freezer and take out what you can, because sometimes that's what happens. You have to put it in the freezer because that's the way it contains for more than a day or two or whatever you're going to need. Not because all frozen foods are healthy. We're not going to tell you that. And so anyway, the frustrating part of it, try to avoid going, because I do this, I'm a chocoholic, and I love my chocolate, and I'll take bites of it. And you know what? It de-stresses me. It does. It doesn't put me like, wired up like they say it does. It have to take a lot of chocolate for that to happen. Instead of my cafecito, my chocolatito, eat that while I'm eating chocolate. That's good for me. And it relieves my stress, but without saying, don't go doing something that you're doing out of content. And if you're at home, that's the way I do it. If you're outside, you're doing something different, actually go outside and take a breather. That would be the other healthy thing to do, and look at something that's different that you haven't seen. You'll see a butterfly go by you. Think about where that butterfly is going, and think about different things outside of what you're just currently doing. It helps. So those are just a couple of things because it's a lot to absorb. I've heard the stress. I could hear it in the voices. And it's good that you allowed this, Lazaro, to let them unleash, if you will, because not all of us are well versed in certain topics, but these students are actually performing a stress situation, and you're relieving it by bringing it up. At least that's when I came into it, and I apologize again for I was jumping from one fire into something different. And I thought, okay, let me see if I can keep an open attitude about this and see what I can say. So thank you for allowing me to say a few things.
Thank you, Mina. That's great insight. Yes, and I believe when you mentioned going outside, taking breather is literally, from my perspective, is taking yourself out of that particular situation that's stressing you out or that mindset that you're in at that point and doing something completely different that is possibly, you know, if you go outside, take a hike, be present in the moment for that, right? Don't be on your phone thinking about the other stressing situation. Leave that away for a couple minutes and focus on that particular moment. And I think being present in the moment is something that we have lost track of, a lot of us, right? Because we have our cell phones so readily available that we can say, oh, let me just check this email. Let me respond to this particular text message. Let me get back to this individual. And it should be a non negotiable in that, at least for me, my personal situation, what I end up doing is I literally go ahead and schedule 30, 45 minutes almost every day, Monday through Sunday, of working out, right? And that's 30 minutes for me. I listen to whatever music I like without any interruptions, and I do my sets of whatever exercise I decide to do. I don't have to go to the gym. I have a little bit of equipment in the garage, so I don't spend that hour, 30 minutes trying to find parking, whatever it is. So that's me. I know Mr. Mike Cruz, he has a different routine, but it's for him. I saw Lourdes, I'll get to you, Mr. Mike, but I saw Lourdes with her hand up, so I want to give her an opportunity before she loses train of thought. Lourdes?
Oh, I just wanted to say something along with how people are able to reach you immediately. Like you have the option of turning your phone to no notifications. You have the option of letting social media change into like notifying you immediately to like when notifies you once you log into the app because you chose to do that. There's this documentary called Social Dilemma that talks about that as well.
So once again, going back to that immediate gratification is everybody says, well, I'm going to send a text to this individual. And from my perspective, when I send a text, I don't expect the response right away. I expect maybe 24 hours, within 48 hours or something like that. And people get back to me within an appropriate time. But I do send it out and say, hey, respond to me whenever available, whenever applicable. And it is up to that person to respond at their leisure, right? But a lot of people, like Lourdes said, is their mindset is, oh, once that message comes in, if I look at it and they see that I actually opened it, they probably expect the response right away. Well, that shouldn't be the case, right? That should not be the case. And you as the individual seeing that email or seeing that text, you have the ability to say, you know, I put my guidelines or I put my ground rules and assumptions up front and indicate this is what's going on. So that should be something that you have to state and be able to stand up for and communicate to those individuals. And I see, Mina, you have your hand up and you probably want to share some thoughts. Go ahead.
Just really quickly, yes, leaving a longer gap between calls and messages like that, because what you're doing is you're automatically robotic and you're thinking, okay, let the phone control you. That's what's happening. You let it to say, and this is exactly what I do too. See, there's something that I have to get to. I let that person know just by checking that, okay, I read it. But do they expect me to right away? And the next thing you know, we're going back and forth like 3 or 4 messages at that moment. Why? Because they saw that I was sending something and they thought, okay, she's on there now. Let me get her while she's on. And that's exactly what happens in my case. And then I get drowned into that. And then I get sidetracked from what I was doing. So it's a bit different when you do have to, how can I say, escalate between your points or your bullets or whatever it is that you're going by, your agenda. And I'm like, oh dear, how can I function with all of this going on? I just finished answering someone, but I'm glad I did because it was related to a potential training for me. And so, okay, so keep in mind, and you never know, especially when you have an outsider trying to contact you via, if it's the proper way, it's through my website, I get a certain form notification and I know what that is. But for others that are constantly productive on, their phones and what have you, it's like right now, it's like, I can't even answer that question. What do I say? If I just start something, there I go. And I start losing it. And then I go, I have 10 calls before this one that just came in that I need to reply. So setting yourself in a sequence Give yourself, like you were saying, that half hour to stay away because it could be very daunting. And, you kind of have to be sharp on this stuff. And I try to spend as less time on my devices as I possibly can right now because my work is calling a different tone. It's having me create and develop my lesson plan, which like for this Friday, I have 80 that I'm going to be a dining tutorial for, session 3 of 3 for girls high school. And I put everything in the car yesterday because I woke up to rain this morning. And it's going to get even worse tomorrow. And I have to be at the school at 8, which means I leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. Where between this forecast, so listen to the news, be in touch, so that's another way of de-stressing, believe it or not. But news could be bad because there's nothing but negativity. Y esto y que el otro, right? Especially now with the disasters and things that we've had, the devastations. But going back to the thing about putting my things in my car, that distracted me and I was good. I was putting this and that. Now that's all in the car where I'm not going to have to do it during the rain. So think ahead of time if it's going to help you at all. That's just an example I wanted to set because you're your own example, how you process what you're going to do.
Yep. Thank you, Mina. Thank you, Mina. One of the big things that I normally do is to set the tone for the day, right? And literally, it's the small wins that get you going for the most part. One of the big ones that I usually get students or young professionals or anybody that asks me, how do I set up for success is, well, start small, like it was indicated earlier. Go ahead and make your bed, right? We've all heard that and it sounds funny and corny, but as soon as you make your bed, you achieve something. Your brain doesn't know how big it is, it processes it as a success. You feel happy, you feel like, okay, I accomplished and physically finished something. So that, in essence, sets the day for success. After that, if, for example, you brush your teeth, you comb your hair, you dress up, everything is progressive and you're thinking, okay, I'm building up for this successful day. Whatever comes after that is like, well, I already have like 5, 6 successes. I'm winning right now. I got the day. Everything's going well. So it's a matter of mindset. So just keep that in mind. As soon as you get up, don't just toss the blankets over. Make your bed. Spend those 5 minutes, 3 minutes making your bed and be happy with it. When your brain sees it, that it's made, it's satisfying, and you're like, okay, I'm good to go. You keep going, and that'll get you through for that particular day. So that's just a little piece of advice from me to you. I see Lourdes. I don't know if you had a question. I think you had your hand up, or was that just a thumbs up? My apologies.
Just an emoji, no
Okay,
comment.
got it, got it. And then, Mr. Mike Cruz, you're in a stage in a situation that maybe a lot of us consider not so stressful anymore. You're retired. You're enjoying your bike rides. You jump in and collaborate with us, and you have a lot of knowledge. But before this happened, how do you deal with stress? How did you deal with stress? What obstacles and adversities did you encounter? And were you successful in navigating through those situations during the time that they were happening?
Well, I got 70 years of being stressed. So it doesn't stop even when you're retired.
Okay.
But I've had many, I had stresses when I was going to school, studying late, working, raising a family all at the same time. I drank a lot, I gained weight, I did everything wrong. I survived because I think my will to succeed was there. And so in the beginning, I drank a lot and exercised a lot to alleviate the stress. So I didn't realize how to deal with it. And finally, as a mid-manager, we finally got a 1-week stress class. Can you believe that? Going to the Apollo Resort reservation for a week and having a team telling us how to deal with stress. And as managers, my boss, the captain at the base, says, my managers need to be mentally healthy, and I need them to be being able to deal with the stress in their job, et cetera, et cetera. So dealing with stress, I think it's a learning experience. I was trying to get everybody to check their heart rate today, because you have your watch on and it checks your heart rate. When I cycle, I know what my heart rate range is. So I know when I'm stressing my body physically and not, and also mentally. So that's a simple tool that the kids can use today, or the young people can use today. You got that watch, check your heart rate when you're quiet. You know, my heart rate, my resting heart rate when I'm asleep is 47. I don't know how you guys do. My doctor says that's okay because I know you exercise, but if you're not healthy and it's 47, that's a different story. And I can't get my heart rate above 130. You know, when I cycle, even climbing up hills and whatever, my doctor was amazed at that too. So check your heart rate, see what the range is when you're resting and you feel good and you're unstressed. And that'll be a quick indicator, a quick tool that you have with you all the time that can help you with that. The other thing was in the years of being stressed and dealing with it is to realize what the stressor is. A lot of you don't know. You feel bad and you keep going at it and you keep you keep hitting your head against the wall and you keep going on because you're strong. You know, I can do it. You know, así se puede. You know, all that stuff. Recognize when you are being stressed. I don't think a lot of people can know that. I mean, the group here seems to realize that they have stresses and they deal with it. But maybe there's other stressors out there that they're not dealing with because they're not aware of. So take time to slow down and trying to deal with recognizing what stress is to you. And then the second point, which everybody's been talking about, is how do you deal with it? You know, what are the things that I can do to alleviate or reduce the amount of stress? Now, one thing I learned at the stress class, there's two kinds of stresses. There's a good stress and there's a bad stress. Stress is good. You're going to work with your daily work life, school life. You're going to have stress, and stress is good. It creates a momentum within yourself to learn more, to be better, et cetera, et cetera. So there are good stressors. So be aware of those also. So just because something taxes you a little bit and kind of gets your blood pressure up and your heart rate up, that may be a good stressor. But any stressor too long or prolonged may impact you. So deal with it. I ended up in a psychiatrist's room one time. I was going to school. I was working, and I got married, had kids, and so I knew something was wrong. So I said, okay, I'll see a psychiatrist, and that's a big step that that's hard to take, because that says something's wrong. So I went to see the psychiatrist. They put me in a dark room. So they go in this room, Mr. Cruz. The lights are off. It was dark, and I just sat there for about maybe a minute or two. And the psychiatrist came in and goes, "Oh man, you're stressed out." How did he know? My breathing. Because I was, and that was all the time because anxiety was up, my stressors were up, and I was in a bad place. And he says, what's causing your stressors? I says, well, I'm married and got kids. I'm going to school and I'm working all at the same time. You know what his solution was? Get rid of two. You know what I said? I'm not going to divorce my wife. I'm not going to give up school, and I can't quit my job. So what I did was I moderated all three. I brought down the level of intensity at school. Instead of studying 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I would take my engineering classes, and I'll stay. Okay, each problem is 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and if I can't solve it, move on to the next one and deal with it the next time. So in my work, I couldn't moderate too much. I just had to take it slower. And then with the wife and kids, I mean that has to be 100%. You can't go on that. So that's some of my experience dealing with stress. It's been a long career. I survived, and at the end of my career, I had like 4 different major positions that I was filling for NavAir. I was going to die on the job. That's what I told myself, because I was flying back east every other week. I had my lab to take care of. I had other programs. I had like 4 programs I was running. And so I gave everybody a 2-year notice. I said, I'm going to retire in 2 years at age 55. I'm going to retire. And if I didn't do that, I knew I was going to die on the job, because physically and mentally, it was too much to handle. Everybody, because I learned to say no, but not no enough. And I got more and more tasks and duties to do. And nobody should have been put in that position. Did they take advantage of me now that I look back? Yeah, because I said, yes, I can do it. And the program manager trusted me. And that was a big stressor. The fact that somebody trusts you and puts everything on your, the liabilities they have on you to perform the task and everything, you don't realize it, but you're taking on somebody else's stressors. And so I didn't realize that until the end. So in 2 years, I retired at 55. I said, and then the first thing I did is got on my bike and start riding around the United States. And I'll tell you what I've told a lot of people. When I hit Washington State, I was up there by Lake Quinault, and I've been riding for about a month or so. And I was riding along in the forest, and it was beautiful. It was calm. And then all of a sudden I realized something that I never realized in my whole life. My face was not stressed out. I felt calm for the first time in many, many years. And to achieve that, I had to do all the physical work, get away from it, get in an unstressed environment. But I felt I'm not grinning. I'm not, my face is not tight. It was loose. It was calm. And I'm going, damn. I had to do all that to realize that, to get to this point. So all you young people, when you won't realize it until you find that peace of mind that says, I'm really at peace. And it may take some time. It may take, and right now you may not reach it because you're getting good and bad stress all the time, and you have to deal with it, and you have to survive. So I'm a survivor from stress, and I see all these young people today buying a house, raising a family. And the other thing now is people passing away. A lot of the people now that I'm dealing with, they have to deal with people passing away, and that's a stressor too. Family and friends. So all of that. So the name of the game is survival. And so that's my 2 cents worth. That's my story. You got to the inner part of me today, but stress is a big thing to deal with. And it seems like you're all aware of it, and you're handling it. Just make sure it just doesn't overwhelm you. And take a break, take a walk, take a swim, jump on the bike.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that insight. Mina, you have your hand up.
Wow. Yes. And to Mr. Cruz, wow, to your point, incredible background. I could just visualize it, because in one part along the lines, given, our our history with employment and so forth, taking what you have at work and then bringing it home, or taking what's going on at home, taking it to work, try to separate those kinds of things. And I remembered how you were managing all those 4 things. I felt in that formula as well. Stayed with 2 and had to drop 2. Unfortunately, it was my education. Loyola Marymount University. Taking a course. Those courses were not cheaps. They're 2 to 3K. A course. In 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, whatever you have to take. And if you miss 3, ya estuvo. There goes your money. At that time, I was doing a voucher. So at that time, it was Hughes Aircraft, and then we got into Boeing and all that kind of stuff, right? As much as I tried to, as an adult reentry program, it was tough. I mean, it kicked me everywhere in my body. I had 2 children in private school, husband working in aerospace. Our schedules together were so much. When do I cook? Remember I said head to the kitchen? Because I remember my parents doing that, and I used to just watch how they would just go. They would sing. They both could sing. They both just did their own thing, and I'm going, singing while they're cooking. Okay. I go in there, and it's true. But what you were saying about leaving the other 2, and trying to get back to it, which I tried. And probably for the, younger generation listening in here, Lázaro, I know you're a father of two yourself and a husband, a very dedicated family man. And anyone else who's here that I don't know about your backgrounds, listen to Mr. Cruz, get familiar with how your attitude's going to observe all these intricacies in life, because you could come back and have that same, it's called a, what do you call it, a flashback? When you have what is it called? When it takes you back and you have relapse, and you have a relapse of something. That health and that skin, by the way, looks great. You have to be careful with that. And how you maintain that is very important, because along with that, you learn new life skills and so forth. Don't wear yourself out. In my family, a lot of heavy drinkers. I saw it. I grew up with it. It disillusions me right now how I survived it, but I did by not doing it myself. It's hard living in a family that has that kind of background. So what do? I stepped out and moved in with two other girls while I was working in the photographic industry for Vivitar. We were three in an apartment. First time I left the house, oh, did I get it from my dad, da, 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 da. So, hey, I'm over 18. I'm out of high school. I'm in college now and I need to study. I laid the ground for him. And my mom said, leave her alone, because he was the one who, had a household y todo eso. I said, no, I can't take this. So I had to stand up for myself. Back then when it was hard for a woman to even say, ¿sabes qué? I'm going even though you say no. I cannot say that, let alone the cachetadas and belts and everything else my brother and I would get. No. I said, I have to stand up for myself. Talk about stress. Going to school the next morning after having been punished because of something you thought was okay, but I participated in something that I thought was going to be okay. Nope. Nope. I don't want you socializing with those people. Whoever you hang out with, you know what the saying is, right? The one you hang out with is who you're going to reflect and all these other stuff. You said so many things that took me back with what you were just saying right now, that if we had more time for this, it would be crazy. Lourdes.
Go ahead, Lourdes.
Oh, I just wanted to say with the students, sometimes your parents may not understand the stress that you're under.
Oh, yeah.
And it's okay to be like, I need to go to therapy. I need to talk to somebody who understands, a mentor. They just don't get it because they will never be in your shoes. Just the same thing as you'll never be in their shoes. And that's just important. You can try to explain it as much as you want, but they'll never understand the overwhelming pressure it is to be a student, especially in engineering or any science for that matter.
That's a good point there, Lourdes. And Mina and Mr. Mike, your life experience is a wealth of knowledge. Thank you for being vulnerable, both of you, for opening up and sharing very, very particular details about your upbringing and your growing up and your personal life situation. I hope that the students are hearing this and are able to take it in. And maybe you don't understand it or don't really empathize with it, but at least have it in the back of your mind, right? And if anything whatsoever that you take away from this conversation, feel free to reach out to any of us here. If you think like, holy crap, how did Mike Cruz, how did Mina, how did Lourdes survive? What the heck is going on? Feel free to reach out to any of us and ask questions. The whole point of this conversation is to talk about stress and adversities. Stress, as indicated by micros, can be good, but it could also be bad. If you don't recognize it, maybe talk to somebody and have some objectivity in that conversation and say, hey, can I, spend 5, 10 minutes with you on the phone and just pitch to you what I'm going through, and you tell me if I'm stressing out in a bad way or a good way, what can I do and how can I possibly, go through and continue going? As Mr. Mike Cruz had an epiphany, he went to this dark room and the psychiatrist indicated you're really stressed. You need to drop two things out of three. He made the conscientious decision of, I
Out of four.
right. So there's several things that happened. He had to make a decision. Do I want to really drop some of those things, or do I have to modify the way that I tackle some of those things and maybe prolong the period of time to achieve them versus having a shorter period of time to reach my goals? So that's something that he had to assess for himself. It goes to all of you here. You might have goals that are really, really stretching you thin, and you have to reassess. Do I really want to go ahead and graduate in 4 years? Or do I have to take maybe a semester, a quarter off, a year off, focus on my health, do something else, or take a leave of absence and possibly come back? But if you decide to do that, make sure that you talk to people and that you bounce that idea with them so that you have some quote unquote accountability that we talked about earlier on before as we started the year, right? Having accountability, having a buddy, having somebody hold you accountable to what you said you were going to do reminds you of, oh, okay, now I really have to, put my words into action because I said this to so and they might be expecting a result. It's not that they're expecting a result, is that you put that on your mind, and now you have to deliver in some sort of way, form, or shape, right? So it's a benefit for you to be having an accountability buddy to be able to continue moving forward. So that's part of the stress, the good stress. That's part of the adversities that you have to go through, and that's part of how do you eat an elephant piece by piece. Make a plan, because a goal without action and without having a plan is simply a wish. So make sure that you plan it out and you act out those actions that you planned out. So, Mr. Michael, you had your hand up, sir?
Yeah, one more comment about school. I just found my transcripts in an old package. I didn't realize it, but I think I dropped out 3 times. I went from 12 units a semester down to 4 or 8, 3, no, 6. Yeah, 6 units. 2 classes instead of 4 classes. So I didn't moderate my education. I was going to give it up, but I had to pull back. And taking engineering classes with work and everything else was a real stressor. Um, uh, and 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 my view on going to school, I hope you don't have to go to work and go to school at the same time. It's tough. I mean, it was tough on me and my family. So hopefully, we gave my kids both an opportunity to go to school full time and pay for it. And actually got a letter from my daughter saying, thank you, Dad. I didn't realize that I didn't have to go to work to go to school, and a lot of her friends did. And it was a realization that times were different. So for those of you that have gone through the school or going through school, if you have to moderate, pull back the trigger a little bit, regroup, and continue on, but never give up.
Sure, appreciate it. Mina?
Yes, incredible. And I second that totally. It's I'm pausing thinking about some things right now, how at how a bit unnatural at first seems to be the natural, but then as things start happening, like the interruptions I had, I was at a high school, did great, went into City College, Santa Monica City College. The reason I'm saying this to all you younger generations here, I don't know what state of level you are in your schooling and raising a family or planning to, but life interferes, your personal life, my family events, my brother's accident, hit and run, took me out of college while I was doing a final in preparing I was doing, what do you call it, formal wear, like doing suit tailoring. And so I was submitting my outfit, and next thing you know, that outfit still hangs undone. And I never completed that. And I had to go back to college in a different way at a different time. What happens throughout the years stays with you. Talk about stress. You live it, you breathe it, you sleep it. So this is me. But then I never expected the 17 years that my mother had to go through dementia. At those 17, I kicked in at 9 years. I had to voluntarily retire. I could still be working right now, but I took enough out that I can say, okay, I can use what I have in terms of the 401k and all that. For what? The care for my mom's care. And she was not put into an institution because I did not have that kind of funds. Either way, it cost me $10K a month. On March 5th, it'll be 7 years since she passed. I was taking care of her 9 years prior to that. So imagine, I've been retired over 10 years. But she survived my father. And my father kept saying, she's going to go first. She's got all this, that, and the other. His drinking took him down. Among everything else, he ended up having cancer of the esophagus. I'm sharing this with you people because they did not share it with us. I had to find out something was not right with the family. The checkbook was going all over the place with my mom in the house, and my dad brought the money in. My mom also was working. But I had to go tell her the bad news when my brother found what was found as being a John Doe. For those of you who don't know that term, when they find you without life, they call you John Doe. Don Juan, whatever you want to translate it to be Spanish, but they give you a John Doe. So I had to go find my John Doe. And when I did find out, the police came to the door and told me, I said, you know what, I'm one step ahead of you. I went to the police station and found out. Let us do our work, ma'am. I said, sure. For 3 weeks from now, because he's considered missing, I knew something had happened to him. It was just down the block after where we ended up finding out. Got hit. Person took off. Landed finding out where she was and who she was and what she changed into later, all from her license plate. She was an airline employee with Southwest. I was playing detective early. So don't tell me about stress and then having to come back home, deal with the dementia. And I said, I have to talk to my manager. Always be honest with your work, with your employer. Let them know what's happening because they're going to think something's wrong with you when actually you're stressed out from taking those stressors. Become you in a different person. How you socialize, your family starts dropping off. Ya no hay fiestecitas, que este y el otro, que sutano y futano le pasó eso. I don't like chisme, and I stay out of it. And my family to this day tell me, you've always taught us not to do this. And my kids are the way they are because they follow their peers and their kids. Learn from us if you can to Cafecito Chats. Really, you guys, if we're here for you, I don't know if we haven't gone through anything that you have already, but we can be of help to you. Don't be embarrassed to talk to us because that's what I think a lot happened with me. I saw things and I could not talk to people about it. I said, I cannot. I'm too embarrassed to talk about it. Even to family. Worse. Because they go chismeando to somebody else. Watch your back, you guys.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Before we close it out, one person that we haven't touched base with is Ken. How do you deal with stress? I know that Ken moved over to San Francisco from San Diego, so I'm pretty sure that there's some stressors there. And he's been up there for about a year and a half to 2 years, maybe. And I'm pretty sure that he can share a little bit of stress and possible adversities that he's encountered. Ken, I don't know if you can turn on your mic.
Yes, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, actually, what I do is what you guys were mentioning too with the task pivoting that I called like what Mina does. I also change tasks as long as I also measure the time and my deadlines that I have to in order for me to afford the time to do those things like to change tasks. I also do the some things in the kitchen as well, or go to the gym, or just sleep, take a nap, or something different than what I have to do, so that I can get my mind out of it too. So that's one of the things that's been also helping me. But in terms of stress, like my schooling is not actually not causing me that much stress anymore because yeah, I've been a student for a long time, and so I feel like it's just like a cycle, especially with the U.S. being always the same. It's either August or September. That's when the semester starts. It's always January. That's the spring semester. So it's kind of like a cycle. So I kind of expect certain times of the year that I'm gonna feel a certain way because here's the exam coming, so I know I'm gonna feel some type of stress. So it doesn't hit me the same way as before. But I have been feeling stressed though at my work with FedEx because I have to work with different types of people with different age groups and different lifestyles with different levels of education, and some that only speak Spanish as well, some that may be immigrants, different types of people. And so I have to adapt to the way I speak to them. And sometimes that could be stressful to change gears so many times throughout the same shift. For example, in my position, I have to work with many, many individuals and help them with their tasks. And so maybe I talk to at least 25, 30, maybe 40 people of the whole warehouse. And it's difficult sometimes to get the objective across every time with every person. And so for me, that gets stressful. So then coping with that, that's when I try to reach out to people. Usually that's what helps me cope with it. I try to reach out to someone, I call someone, I talk to them about kind of what they think they would do in that situation, because perhaps maybe I wouldn't know maybe I wouldn't know the best way to reach out to a specific person if I have not lived those experiences yet, or if I cannot relate in some other way. So that's what helps me with the stress, getting other people's opinion and their point of view. So that helps me make better decisions when I'm have to talk to those persons again, for their, for a work related thing. So that's how, when I got to San Francisco, that's something that I've noticed, because when people work here, is I feel like a different vibe than San Diego. I think, in my opinion, I think it's maybe because in San Diego the border is right there, so a lot of people have, when I deal with other people, when I work with other people that are Latino, so, most of the time it's Mexicans, and we are used to, maybe living in Tijuana and crossing the border every day, and then we cross back. But here, we can't really do that. So a lot of people come from a different type of mindset. So you're more used to the, very United States, what you see in the news mindset. So it's kind of, I have to kind of cope with that somehow and trying to relate somehow with them. And something else that helps me is I try to share my point of view of how uh, it could be California, the same state, and being in San Diego or being in San Francisco or even LA, it has a totally different vibe. So I try to kind of share those experiences that I spent in San Diego or LA, and how that's very different in San Francisco, where some people might have never been to San Diego or sometimes even LA. So I try to have them compare, what do you think about this? We're still in the same state. This is what I think my friend would do, or this is what I think I would do in that same situation, but in a different city. And then maybe they try to also relate to my point of view of the situation. Sometimes that helps to alleviate a tough situation, which then produces the stress, so that I don't get stressed, or maybe the other person might not get stressed. But yeah, that's just an example of something that would has been causing me some stress here in the Bay Area. Sometimes just maybe working with different people. I'm not sure if anybody has something to say about something like that. If maybe working in a different city, maybe very, different vibe compared to San Diego. I know we're very used to San Diego.
Nope. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing your insight
yeah,
perspective. That's great insight, and that's why I pinged on you
yeah,
because moving to a different
yeah.
city without really having a family support system there established already is going to be a stressor for a couple years probably if you decide to stay and
Yes.
continue setting your roots there. It's going to take a while before you actually establish something there. Mina, and then we'll close it out.
Thank you, Lazaro.
Yeah.
One more thing, Ken, on everything that you said right there. You also travel, and travel is a great stress reliever in many ways, because it gives you another opportunity to get educated different ways. But you are trilingual, if not more. I know that there's three languages that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So even that flexibility that you have, the way you comport yourself, the way you speak, the professionalism that you have, others will see that. And I'll say it again, people are watching you. So they'll know if you're up for a promotion or something, then you say, no, I have to leave. I'm going to be relocating here, there. And he goes, oh, we had you in mind for, but they didn't know. So let other people know, kind of the people that you trust that are going to need to know about you in your moves, because it's a one-on-one kind of thing really with everybody. But your management needs to know a little bit more about you so that they can guide you. And you'd be surprised. You made a move and they go, oh, we had you in mind for, and you're probably saying, no lo quiero. No, thank you. Thank you very much, but I don't want this dress.
Yeah, you very guessed it correctly, because when
Are
I
you
moved
kidding
over
me?
here, yes, no, you did, because actually when I moved over here, I got transferred from FedEx from San Diego to here. I asked them to transfer me, and within a couple months they promoted me, and I didn't ask them for anything. They just came up to me and they promoted me, and they did not know I spoke Japanese or anything else. Like they just maybe thought maybe just Spanish with some English. They didn't know I had a college education and anything. They just thought I was just some random person. And then slowly, little by little, I just started telling them, more about me. Like, hey, I'm going to go to Japan. And they were like, oh, random Japan, why Japan? And then I started telling them more about me. And then now they just kind of get more used to me. And I think they might even want to promote me again because they've been shifting me a lot to different positions, which is why I keep, meeting new people for the first time, even though, it's the same job, somewhat same position since they promoted me. So they keep moving me around within the company.
Well, you're just zooming everywhere. Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Thank you, everybody, for the sake of everybody's time and respectful of everybody's schedule. I want to say thank you. This conversation was very beneficial, had a lot of interaction, and I believe we got a lot out of it, right? So with that, I want to say thank you, everybody, and we can continue the conversation offline. Everybody can reach out to anybody, Mina, Mike, Lourdes, myself, if you want to touch base. With that, thank you so much for joining Cafecito Chat. We'll see you next Wednesday. Hasta luego. Bye-bye.
Gracias.
Bye-bye.
Hasta luego, muchas
Feliz fin
gracias.
de semana. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye-bye.
Happy friendship.
Yes.